9/11 situation, what happens to America. America was founded by the Pilgrims who were looking for religious freedom. They were being tormented and imprisoned in England for not following along with the Catholic Church. So we had the Pilgrims. They sought a new land for themselves, and they came to America. And God guided their boat to America. And America was based on biblical principles. And if we look at the situation now, I mean, from where America had its humble beginnings, people needed people. There was not enough technology to make you independent of your neighbor. You had to help each other. You had to help each other raise each other's houses, raise each other's barns. You had to help each other with each other's crops and help each other, with whatever needed to be done. And there was peace and there was harmony and people got along. And for a while it was heaven until people finally figured out they didn't need people anymore. They could go out and independently do whatever they needed to do. So therefore the love for people started growing cold. Now at the end of the story, after 200 years of this growing cold in the heart towards your fellow man, it comes down to the point where, someone asked someone one day a question in psychology. They said, if you saw a man or your dog dying, drowning in a lake, which one would you save? And the majority of the people said they would save their dog. That says a lot about the value of human life to another human being. It doesn't make any sense. It's ungodly and it's not spiritually based. And I'm sure God will have a very dim view of America's morals. America, because of its morals sliding down the moral slope, has finally hit the mud pit that it was headed toward, and has now finally not only brought down the house on itself, it's drawing in foreigners to do it to them. America is a home of the brave and the land of the free. But it won't remain so for long if these thugs get away with what they're trying to do. And that's trying to dismantle the Constitution, and that's trying to create an air of fear in people's hearts, where they will be fearful, and they're going to demand more and more restrictions to be put on different things until finally they're going to break themselves into a wall that they can't see over themselves. And in other words, they will imprison themselves, thinking that safety, that they're safe, that their families are safe, and they'll find out that there's no safety at all, that they have just literally closed the doors on themselves. Now, about the marathon bomber, this goes right along with it. I mean, the coldness and the disregard for human life, the way it was set up with some evil intent and sinister purpose to draw attention to something that hasn't been divulged yet. No group has come forth and claim responsibility. And we've got people that are out there looking for any kind of clue that could give them any kind of information about who could have done something such as this. I mean, this is a tragedy. We've had people that were running in the marathon that's had amputations, and some of the people lost their lives. 8-year-old boy lost his life just watching a race, watching a foot race. Lost his life. Last thing on his list for that day. was to ever lose his life, and and it happened. I mean, I don't know what the severity of his injuries were, but I heard that there were some very horrific injuries. The terrorists used garbage cans and they filled them full of ball bearings. So someone with some knowledge, a little bit of knowledge in the wrong areas is dangerous and can destroy a lot of people and hurt a lot of people and destroy a lot of lives. So we've got this situation going on, and now what is Congress going to do? Congress already had a full plate for the week to discuss gun control, to discuss foreign immigration, to discuss different things. And now here they've got this terrorist thing on their plate to deal with. So, folks, we don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what they're going to do. They immediately started sealing off streets in other cities. They immediately went down and almost into a lockdown situation at the White House. We've got the situation where what if someone plants something like this on an airplane? What if any sporting event is a target? What are you going to do then? I mean, that's going to show that there is no safety nowhere in America unless we turn back to God. If we turn back to God, then of course God will extend His grace to this country once again, and He will watch over it and protect it. But right now, God has no reason to protect America because people have finally pushed the envelope to the point to where they punctured it and went through it, and they're outside of God's grace right now. They're living outside of the umbrella of God's grace, and they have proven themselves to be just as bad as the people that used to live in Sodom and Gomorrah. And they're looking for public acceptance throughout the entire country. You got some states that are balking and refusing to go along with it, but let's just call it for what it is. It is an egregious sin to God. It is an abomination to God, and it is nothing to please God. It will never please God. And God made marriage between a man and a woman, and one man and one woman at one time. And He was not even for divorce. God was not even for divorce. But everything in our country, I mean, you can go to some dating sites and you'll see people listed there: divorce, 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 divorce. Every once in a while, you'll find one that says widow, widowed, but it's just that everything has gone haywire. We got teachers abusing school kids. We've got kids on drugs medication. You know, I mean, they can't pay attention in classroom for some reason. We've got our prisons packed full. We've got more prisoners in America than any other country in the world. I think we have like 25 million people behind bars. That's what I think. Not really sure if they're all behind bars or if they're on work release or whatever, but I mean, the statistics keep changing. But people, I mean, you've got to make a decision. You got to make a decision if you want to live in a hellish environment or do you want to live in a paradise. America used to be a paradise compared to what it is now. I'm not saying go back to the horse and buggy days or going back to the Amish days, but by the way, the Amish are being picked on. They're being arrested. And, for selling raw milk. And when did that ever hurt anyone? I mean, that's the way America grew up. I mean, you've got a law for everything. There's even a state that's even going to tax rainwater. You know, if it rains on your property, you get taxed. Well, what did this country start? How did this country start? the Boston Tea Party over a tea tax. Now, if they're going to tax tea and it's going to cause a revolutionary war, what do you think a tax on rainwater is going to do? I think it's going to just bring down the house. That's what I think personally. But I mean, that's just those are just my thoughts. Well, I'm coming up on 25 minutes into my program now. It's time for me to close it out. But I want to just give you an opportunity to make a change in this world and in this country. And the change that you can make is to turn yourself around from the direction that the rest of the crowd is going. If they're going into the fire, don't go with them. Turn around. Use your common sense that God gave you. He told you, that He was there. He's always been with you. And He's with you right now. He's waiting for you to make a decision to follow Him and follow His Son and to live according to the way He told us to live. He did not give us carte blanche on the earth. He did not let us run free like animals. And He did not let us have things just so that we could destroy each other with. Now, some fiends decided that they were going to take some human life yesterday, and they did it. Well, God's going to punish them for it if they don't get punished by man. They're not going to escape punishment. But the thing you got to look at is this. What about the future? How many more repeats does it take like this? How many tornadoes out in the Midwest does it take? How many blizzards that bury cars is it going to take? How many tsunamis and earthquakes is it going to take before people are finally going to just open up their eyes and say, well, I think we're going the wrong way. Well, Jesus is the way. Jesus is the only way. He's the truth and the life. And this isn't a Christian dogma. This is the truth. 2,000 years ago, He was born in Bethlehem. And He lived a sinless life, and He began His ministry, and He ministered for 3 years, and He gave up His life willingly. He says, no man takes my life. I lay it down for my sheep. And He was crucified. He was given the most horrific death on earth possible. He was scourged, and then scourging enough was enough to kill somebody, but that wasn't enough to satisfy the Jewish Sanhedrin of that day. So they decided that they wanted Him crucified too. So that was adding insult to injury. So then they crucified Him. But He kept His promise. He rose again on the third day. And He did all that for you. And He did all that for me. And He would have done it for, even if it was just one of us, He would have done it. But He did it. He didn't have to do it. He could have stopped at any time. He could have thrown the cross aside, over to the side, and says, that's it. I'm not going any further. I'm not going any further. That's it. That's it for me. You're not worth it. And walk away. Especially after what they did to Him, and they pulled His beard, and they put the crown of thorns on Him, and then they stabbed Him, and then they tore all the meat off of His body, where He didn't even look like a human being. Then they put Him on a wooden cross, and then they nailed Him to it, and then they took His clothes off and exposed Him to the world naked. All these pictures you see, Jesus, hanging, with just a little bit of blood showing here and there, those aren't realistic. Those are the cleaned up versions. You should see the real versions. But anyway, God saw fit to give man one last chance to get out of this go to hell business. And I suggest that you take it. It's a free gift. And God is not going to be happy if you turn down His free gift. And you'll have to be standing in front of God one day, and you're going to have to give an answer for why you turned down the gift.